everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today, and before we get started, be sure that you're a member over at one of my Facebook groups. I will list those down below. It's a great place to get to know other crafters, hang out, share your crafts, and ask your questions. Now today's video is one that you guys really wanted to see after I showed you how to use the debossing tool with your maker to actually emboss. I'm going to show you how you can do an embossing with your Explore. Now again, I know it's hard to see on film, but I'll show you both sides just to see if you can see one of them a little bit better than the other. But we're going to do a full page of embossing, and I think it's going to look really cool. I did it so that it would match the one that we did with our maker so that you could kind of layer them if you wanted to. But I just thought this was really fun to show you a full sheet, and you can do the same concept if you want to make those with your maker as well. You're going to need a few supplies for this. So if you're using your Explore or your Explore 3, you're going to need the little scoring stylus. Now you can grab this pretty much any craft store, Amazon. These are great. You'll also want the brayer as well. You're going to need a light grip mat. You're going to want a little scraper to help clean off your mat when you're done. And you're also going to need some thicker cardstock and some thinner cardstock. This is a really fun craft. You can really do it with just about all the machines with the exception of the Joys. I still don't know how to do it with those because they don't make any type of a scoring stylus to go with those machines. So let's go ahead, get started. I'm going to show you how to set this up on Design Space and then how we're going to actually perform it with our machine. Now you can absolutely emboss with your Explore machine. It's actually a lot easier than I think a lot of people would think that it is. You don't need the debossing tool. All you need is a scoring stylus. So this is a really fun way to do this. Now I've got 4 little images here. We're going to actually make like a backing paper for the design that we made with our maker. I just thought it'd be a fun way to kind of show you how to combine them. So what you'll do first is decide what size paper you're going to use because we're going to use multiple designs. Let me scooch those over. Now I'm going to do this on a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. So I want to make my template area just 11.5 because that's technically as large as the Cricut or the, different machines, the Explorer and the Maker can cut or like emboss or do whatever. Now I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to send this to the back so it's behind all of my items, and then I'm just going to change the color so that we can see our designs on top of it a lot easier. Now I'm just using 4 designs, but you can use as many as you want to, and don't worry about the color right now. We'll deal with that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to size them down, and you size them however you want. It's truly up to you and whatever size you want them to be, but I'm just going to kind of size them down and figure out kind of where I just want to lay them out. And you can lay them out however you want. You can turn them. You can, make them really big if you want or really small. It's truly up to you and how you want it to do. Now this one I'm not sure is going to come out quite as well as I want, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one. And we'll just work with these 3 designs. And the reason I say that is because you see that we have a lot of space kind of here between our edges of our shell. That one didn't have a lot of space once I kind of sized it down. So when you're doing a debossing or an embossing, you want to have an item that's going to have some pretty big lines around it or like inside of it here, or even like these little tentacles where there's some spacing between them. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control C and Control V, which is copy and paste. And then I'm just going to kind of copy and paste these designs just kind of all over our sheet. It does not matter what you do, how many you do. You can make some bigger, you can make some smaller, truly up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that with these designs. I'm not doing any rhyme or reason to them. I'm just going to kind of make some small, some big, some jellyfish, some seashells, some starfish. Really, honestly, you do what you want to do, and then we will come back and I'll show you our next step because I don't think you need to really watch me do this part in real time. I'm pretty satisfied with how filled my sheet is. You can do whatever you want. Fill it as full as you want to. Truly up to you and the way you want to do it. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I want to hide the square, which we can just do by clicking on this little eyeball. Then I want to select all of my design and I want to choose the attach option. What that's going to do is it's going to tell Design Space to hold everything in place, and it's going to just make it all the same color because we want everything to cut on the same sheet. Now, I need to add an offset. So here's the thing. This is a lot of information for Design Space to handle, especially trying to do an offset. So what I'm going to recommend that you do is I want you to go down to combine and I want you to weld the design. The reason we're doing that is you'll see we have a ton of layers over here. Design Space cannot sometimes handle that much information. So by welding it, it's giving Design Space a lot less to think about when we do our offset. Now we can add our offset by just simply clicking offset up here at the top of our screen. Now when using this specific design and offset, you want to use a very small offset. So I usually go about 0.02 to 0.03 or 4 depending on the design. So I'm going to start with 0.02 and I just want to see what that looks like. So it may take a moment to kind of still compute and change your offset size. So just give it a second. Sometimes if you see that it hasn't changed it back here, just simply click apply, and a lot of times it will change it once you've hit apply. Now again, it looks like it hasn't changed it, but I promise you it has, because when you click off of it, you'll see now that you have a much smaller offset. So this looks like it's a pretty good size offset for what we want to do, and how we can tell that is you can just see how thin the black line is around each of our designs. You can also move this to the side and just take a look and see how big that's going to be, but I think that looks pretty good for what we want it to do. So that's a pretty decent size. Now we need to do a couple more small things, and it's all really easy. What I want to do is I'm going to select my offset, and I'm going to change my operation from basic cut to score. So now it's going to look really crazy because the score line is technically shown as a dashed line. So now that's why I like to do the offset and take a look at it before I ever change any operation. I make sure that I like the look of it, because once you look at it this way, it looks absolutely crazy, but it is going to do solid lines when it does score. So don't worry about it. I know that it looks a little nuts, but it's really totally fine. Now from here, all we simply have to do is make sure to save this, because you don't want to like lose all your work. So I'm going to save this as Emboss Ocean Design, and I'm just going to go ahead and click save. And then I'll show you what it looks like on our make screen, because we do, like when we did the maker, if you haven't seen that video, I will explain this as well. But when you click make, it's going to want to score first. Just like with the maker where it wanted to use our deboss tool first, this is going to want to use the score tool first. So in order to override that, when you go to your machine and turn it on, you're going to select the basic cut version first. This is really important that you select this tool first and you select it to do the cut first. You'll come back and do the first page after you have gotten the cut done, and I'll show you all why you have to do it that way as we're cutting, like once we cut and remove the paper. But now what you want to do is you're going to want to use a relatively thick cardstock. You could even use, somebody suggested like using a cereal box. Absolutely, you could use a cereal box. You can kind of use just something thicker. You don't want to use a really, really thin paper for this, because it's not going to give you a nice thick embossing. So we're going to use a thicker cardstock, and then we'll use a thinner cardstock on top so that you can see how really pretty this looks. It's going to be really, really cool. So let's head over to the machine. I'm going to show you how to cut this out, how to weed it so that it works right, and then we're going to go ahead and use our score tool to create this cool embossing effect. First thing we'll do is put our heavier cardstock on our mat. So this is about 120 pound cardstock, and I'm just going to put this on my light grip mat, but this is a new light grip mat, so it is really sticky, which is so nice. So I'm going to go ahead and load this on. Now you can use a brayer to help you keep your paper on a little bit better, or even your vinyl. I like to use it just especially with like a project like this, where I definitely want the paper to stay stuck. So now what I'm going to do is load this in, and we're going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm using the medium cardstock setting, which will be the setting that I use with our thinner paper as well. So this one you can see is much thinner. And then we're going to be able to emboss. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. Let this cut. This might take a minute because there are quite a few small details and lots of things for it to cut through. once it's done, we do have a couple little spots that caught, which it could just be because this blade might be a little bit old, but it'll be fine. It'll still look okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this and scooch this out of the way really quick so that I can show you better what our next steps are. So typically when you are working with a project, you would remove the whole thing from the mat. But in this case, we don't want to do that. We only want to remove the backing paper. Now, like I said, we might have a little couple spots that might come up. I'm okay with it. It's fine. It was just my paper apparently. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of just wipe my hand across it real quick because there's some little dots from the starfish that came up. So I just want to make sure none of those come up. Get all those kind of pushed off to the side. Then I need to take the backing part off, which is all the stuff that isn't the shapes. So I normally would flip my mat over, but in this case, I don't want to do that because I don't want to risk lifting any of our small designs. So I'm going to actually remove the cardstock just like this. Now, like I said, we might have a spot here or there that might want to come up because it didn't cut well. And it's for some reason just on these shells. I think they just maybe weren't a great shape to use, but that's okay. We'll just kind of work with it. See if we can get most of them to stay down. If we can't, it's fine. No big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and just very carefully kind of remove this. And you want to be careful, like especially down here by the little jellyfish legs, because those might be a little harder to convince to come off. But I'm just going to gently pull, and you can see that it's leaving behind all of our shapes on our mat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this off. I've just got a few more little jellies to get through, and voila. Now, we have these little dots on our starfish. These are very small. I should have thought of that before I made this design, but that's okay. So what we'll do is we're going to carefully remove them using our pin pen. Now we want to make sure that any of these little dots are not stuck onto our mat because it could cause our next section of our project not to work well. So I'm going to go ahead and pick all of these off. Now this might be a little tedious to do, but I think it'll be okay. Well, once you've got everything weeded out, and it dawned on me that it's probably not going to cut the little circles out, so it's fine. I don't know what I was thinking when I thought it would cut the circles out, but it's okay. It's not going to, and that's okay. So what you want to do is put your cardstock on top of this, and you want to line it up pretty evenly. Then again, bring out your brayer, and you want to press this down pretty well, and you may start to see a little bit of the shapes coming through as you're pressing your paper down. That's totally fine, totally normal. And I'm doing this on the medium cardstock setting as well with the scoring tool. So I'm going to bring the machine over, and then we will go ahead and get this scored. We need to install a tool into our Explore machine. So let me open her up. And what you're going to need is the Cricut Scoring stylus. So it's just this little thing. It kind of looks like a pen, and it has a metal tip on the end. And then you'll see it has a little arrow. What you want to do is place this into your pen holder. Now mine, I need to insert my little adapter thing that comes with it back in there because I usually take that out because I don't use this a ton. So make sure that your adapter's in. Then put your finger under your carriage. Then you want to push this in until it clicks. Now my click was really quiet, so I'll take it back out. And I don't know if you could hear that because my click is really quiet. But now when you load this in, you want to make sure that you're loading it the same direction that you loaded it the first time. So for me, I had the little hole up there at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and load this in. This is going to go ahead and score around all our shapes. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get any of the circles. It dawned on me that by using that offset, those circles probably filled in. It's fine. I'm not worried about it. As long as we get the shapes, we're good to go. So let's go ahead and let this score. So I had a little issue that you probably saw my hands come in for. My scoring stylus actually popped out of my holder for some reason. So it didn't score this one in the corner, but that's totally okay. It's no big deal. But I will say, when you do have your scoring stylus in, make sure that the arrow is not visible. I didn't double check that, so that was my fault. But what I'm gonna do is unload this, and I'm gonna show it to you a little bit here, because you can pretty much see it. I mean, it looks really good. So what I'm gonna do now is show you how to take this off the mat, because you wanna do this carefully. Let me scoot the machine out of the way. That way we have a little space to work with. Now what you're gonna do is, just like when you take your mat off with your designs, you want to do the same thing with this, but you want to be really careful because you don't want to damage any of the parts where it has the raised area. So I recommend holding your mat over, and then starting in any corner that you want, you just start there, and I just pull my mat backwards. And this is actually a really new blue mat, so it's pretty sticky. But what I'm doing is I'm just holding down my cardstock and rolling my mat away from that cardstock. Then when I get a little further towards the center, I just put my hand on it and I just walk my design away from my mat. And I'm just gonna kind of very carefully, and especially once you get to the end, you just wanna very carefully kind of put your hand under there and walk your fingers just along to remove it from the mat. Now, we will need to take all this off of our mat. You just use a scraper. You can just, pick it off, whatever you wanna do, but we don't need to see me do that. It's not really that exciting. But what I want to show you is our finished embossing. It looks so stinking cool. It looks so cool. And what I want to show you is that there were some spots, like I said, the dots inside of the starfish didn't emboss, and then there's a couple of these little shells that didn't emboss as well. But honestly, I think it really came out pretty good, all things considered. I could have used a little bit more care with my offsetting, but I actually kind of like that the smaller little shells don't have the lines. It really gives them a little more of a different look. And then remember, we lost a little piece of the shell down here, so that shell doesn't have the embossed look. But I still think this came out super, super cute. I think it was really easy. So let me go get the other piece that we made with our maker and show you kind of how I would layer these. Now, if I was going to use this for a card or anything, or even like a little design, I would cut this out. I would cut it better than what I did because I just cut it by hand. And all you need to do is just set this on top. You could use some foam tape to give it a little more dimension. But now you have this really cool kind of double embossed look. So you've got the saying over here on your silver cardstock, and then under it you would have this neat little design. Now these are great to be used for, signs. That's always fun. Cards are fun. Wedding invitations are especially really cool with an embossing look to them. I've done bookmarks before as well. I will say the bookmarks tend to eventually go a little bit flat because obviously they're sitting in between a book, but they are really fun to make. You can make so many things using embossing. These are really fun to use too if you wanted to make like a faux wax seal or a sticker. You could easily do that, make the embossing, and then you would just have your Cricut cut it out in the shape that you want it to be, and then you can just glue it onto your envelope. So there's lots of ways to use these. But I think this came out really cool. I love how easy it is, and the fact that you can do it with either machine makes life super duper simple. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I would be happy to answer any of those for you. And remember, this will work with your Explore Air 2, your Explore, or even with your Explore 3. Now also, if you don't have the debossing tool, you can use the scoring tool in your maker as well. So that's definitely an option to get around having to purchase the debossing tool. Now I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.